Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Salt and Burn This. My name is Sammy.
I'm Valerie.
Welcome back. I hope you had a nice Thanksgiving. It's not Thanksgiving yet in our timeline, but to you, the listener, it is Thanksgiving, or it has passed.
I was like, how do I? It's not Thanksgiving.
No.
But yes, when you listen to this, Thanksgiving will have passed, and I hope everyone had a good time.
Yep.
And no one got caught in what I'm seeing now is travel hell.
Oh, yeah. But, it's already started.
Yeah. I got a little travel karma. I'm so excited by this. This is terrible. On my drive up here, it's only like 3.5 hour drive from my house to my folks.
Mm-hmm.
And I deliberately, knowing it's a holiday weekend, I definitely kept my speed under, normal Valerie speeds.
Yes.
The number of people who passed me, like doing Mach 2, I was like, come on, where's a cop when you need one? Just slow down, blah, blah, blah. And sure enough, someone went speeding by me just as there was a cop flipping around from the other side of the highway. And the lights went on. I was like, and he tried to do the whole like pull over and slow down, thinking that he would just be able to merge into traffic and the cop would go flying by.
Yeah.
Nope. And in fact, I've noticed this about cops is that they'll pull almost all the way up to like next to you and then slow down and slide if they're pulling you over. So they don't just come up behind you. They come up on the side of you. So you get this false sense of, oh, they're going past me. And then they pull in right behind you. And this guy
get pulled over much? Is that how you know this? Because I've never seen that.
I know I never get pulled over. My insurance rates have never skyrocketed. It was great. It felt great. I was like, ha.
I
didn't pull over.
I do love when that happens.
Yeah. It's because, you always want it to happen, but then you have to settle for it's not going to happen now, but it is going to happen someday.
Yes.
And I just won't be there to see it.
Right.
But
right.
I was there to see it. Of course, having said that, I'm totally going to get pulled over on the way home after the holidays.
Yeah, you better knock on some wood somewhere.
I will. Hey, look at this. My dad's old work desk, and it is wooden. So, did you like this episode?
I did. I have fond memories of it because when I watched it for the very first time, I was with Mike, with Monkey, and he was sitting there. This was like one of the few episodes from season 2 that I am starting to remember because I distinctly remember him saying at one point, "Oh my God, there's so much foreshadowing in this. I can't take it. It's so hard not to tell you."
So it was torture for him.
Yes.
To explain why these, every time somebody said something or pointed something out, you're like, oh, it's because later this happens.
But he didn't.
Poor Monkey.
He didn't, bless his heart. And I really did. I was just like, what are you talking about? Like, it didn't.
Right?
It didn't clue me in at all just because I couldn't see what was coming.
What I found interesting about this is reading, fans' opinion, the fandom about this episode, because they all did the same thing, which is, oh, well, this is important because of that. And they're totally reading into it. I was like, I think some of those things actually were just written in the moment.
I actually have something to say about that.
Okay.
So it was an interview with Eric Kripke around this time. So this isn't like years later. It was at the time, like shortly after season 2 wrapped, I believe. And Sarah Gamble, which we'll talk about, wrote this episode, and she's like obsessed with angels and the lore of angels. And there's this paragraph here that says this. Speaking of angels, they may not be dismissible in the real world, but it sounds like angels have been dismissed from the world of supernatural. Never say never, creator Eric Kripke says, but in my mind, angels as supernatural beings do not exist. In my opinion, there are forces of evil, but the forces of good are human. There might very well be a god, but if there is, he's working in mysterious ways through a band of very imperfect humans. So this was either him trying to deflect like amazingly so, to be like, no, this will never happen. Or he legitimately at this moment in time said, no, I'm not going there.
Wow. Yeah, I did read that somebody, again, I didn't write down who, but surmised that Eric Kripke in the writing of this episode and of this season was dabbling with the idea and had to do like a tester, had to do some sort of litmus to see if the storyline or the idea of angels would take hold with the fans, with the audience base. So I don't think it's because he had a grand idea that it would. I think it was just one of those, monsters of the week type of thing.
Yeah.
That do we do this or do we not?
Right. And even like him and Kim and like kind of the whole creative team were really worried about this episode because it's touching on like the Catholic faith and like
religion.
The priest is it's religion is the monster, so to speak. And they were like,
so to speak,
oh my God, we're gonna get like this is never gonna fly. We have to be really touchy about it, or we're just gonna get like bashed. Yeah. But they did a really good job with it, I think. But they definitely were like stressed out about putting this episode out there in the supernatural universe.
When I closed my book on this episode, I kind of took a breath and I was like, I don't know if I have the right to say the things that I want to say about this episode, meaning because it is faith, it is religion, and I don't know if I'm qualified to have the opinions I have. Now, of course I am, but a part of me, I wish I was more educated just in Catholicism and in Christianity, just so I had a more solid base from which to speak from.
Right.
And so some of the things I want to note in the episode, I'm like, do I have the right to say those things? And I do. But it was just interesting that when I was like, I thought about the episode and just turn off the TV and close my book and be like, woo, another episode down. Let's go do the podcast.
Yeah.
I thought about it. I sat and I thought about it for a while. And it's...
Yeah, I'm not really a person of faith or religion either, but my grandmother was Catholic, and I went to Catholic church a lot when I was a kid.
Yeah, me too.
I was never baptized, so I was never allowed. I know, I could never do the communion, the bread, the
you
wafers.
Do the wafers.
No, and I just wanted to so bad, and my grandma's like, "You can't do it. Are you kidding me? You're not baptized." And I was like 7, It's like,
you're like, I don't understand.
Yeah, I don't. So.
Thank you, organized religion.
Yeah. So I'm probably not very qualified to have opinions either, but I didn't really approach this as a person like faith-based thing, but more of a fictional TV show monster kind of thing. And
character's journey.
Yeah, and I do think that they did a very good job.
They did. They absolutely did. I don't think there was no bashing. I think it was an episode, and it was, the journey and the story and the events that happened to those characters in their circumstances. And it wasn't Supernatural taking a stand for or against anything.
No, and I think they bring up some questions that I think a lot of people have, right. With the I have to see it to believe it type of thing.
Right.
So.
Right. Well, that's like the biggest point about this episode is Sam's belief and Dean's beliefs.
Yeah. And
where they started the episode and where they ended the episode.
Yeah. Okay. Shall we actually get into it?
Yeah.
Season 2, Episode 13, Houses of the Holy. The Winchesters have seen ghouls, demons, ghosts, and vampires, but angels? There's no such thing, Dean declares. But a new case involving chosen people who smite evildoers may prove him wrong. Written by Sarah Gamble and directed by Kim Manners. Originally aired on February 1st of 2007.
Yeah, so Houses of the Holy obviously is a Led Zeppelin album and a song. And later on, Dean is listening to Led Zeppelin on his earphones.
He's not. That's not the song that he's listening to.
That's what it says,
but that's not the song that's actually playing. It's something else.
Okay.
So I don't know.
I wasn't listening. I just looked at his phone because I thought he held up a Zune. I thought it was. I was like, oh no!
No, that was a nice little product placement of the Verizon chocolate phone. Do you remember the chocolate phone?
I do remember the chocolate phone.
I never had one, but I remember wanting one because I was like, ooh, that's a sexy name for a phone.
Right. And everything Verizon was putting out at that time was like super new and sexy.
Yes.
Like they were the product do the year.
Right. The original title for this episode, I don't know if it was the working title or if they changed it last minute, I don't know. But it was supposed to be just Touched. Yeah. Yeah,
Oh, well,
I think they rethought that after all of the things, and they're like, maybe
but they
not.
referenced it. Yeah.
Oh, a million times they did.
Yeah. So this our map quest moment
Mm-hmm.
of this episode is one place, Providence, Rhode Island. My dad is from New England and went to school in Rhode Island.
Oh,
No,
really?
yes, Rhode Island. Yep. So a lot of our like tell us about the olden days stories with my parents take place up in Rhode Island, and that's where
Cute.
my parents met.
Aw.
And so the snow and the cold that was enveloping this episode, I was like, that sounds about right.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
looks about right.
Which was a nice change of pace to see, like, changes of weather. I don't think I've seen snow yet. Like, all we've seen is rain, And
Right. Right. Except for that 666 Route 666 episode where they like had to shut down filming because of how much snow there was.
Oh, that's right. But I don't. So, interestingly enough, this episode did not have a recap.
No, I noticed that when I was looking for ideas for GIFs and stuff.
Right. Like, and I sometimes when Netflix, it'll just like automatically skip the recap.
Yeah.
And I have to like physically go rewind it.
Go back. Yeah.
And I did it like a few times thinking that I had looked down and just like missed it, missed the recap. Yep. But no recap, which is the first
time. Yeah. I usually write down recap, our notes about the recap, and then I write opening, and my notes go right to the opening.
Yep.
Interesting. I wonder why they did that. Did they just need more time?
Maybe. Or maybe there was just nothing really to say. Or maybe they didn't want to spoil.
Right. If the rest of this episode was all about foreshadowing.
Right.
Little did they know.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So speaking of the opening, it's a grungy woman in her home smoking like a chimney.
Yes.
Watching TV.
Drew Carey show.
Yeah. Bored out of her mind. Changes the channel and it opens to 700 Club type of thing, or a TV evangelist. Yeah. She's just kind of watching, and then she gets bored and she shuts it off. And then the lights start flickering. Which
Dunna.
Yes.
Supernatural, something's gonna happen.
Yep. The TV turns back on and the volume grows louder, and it's just this preacher just preaching at her.
Yelling.
There's an earthquake inside of her house. It's just
the wind is blowing inside of her house. She also like next to her giant ashtray that is just filled to the brim with cigarettes, there's tons of angel statues and figurines around. And those are now like knocking over and smashing to the ground. And the priest or the evangelist on the TV is like screaming, "The Lord is talking to you right now." And of course he's got that, evangelical TV evangelist tone. And she's trying to turn off the TV. She's like, click, 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 and it just doesn't turn off.
No.
The apartment. Earthquake in her apartment. Her hair is blowing.
Yes. And then a bright ass light shines from the end of a hallway somewhere, or a door. It just goes brighter and brighter and brighter. You see her mouth, my God, or something.
My God.
Like
and because you can kind of see like a shadow figure within the light. You can't really see what it is.
Yeah. It's mostly just the camera is on this woman's face and the light, like white.
Just blaring.
Yeah, blaring at her, whitewashing her.
You don't hear, she obviously hears something, but we don't hear it. Like I heard like harsh whispers, but you can't understand. I listened. I was like, is it calling her name? Is it saying this is God? I was listening. It's like, no, it's just this harsh whisper, but she clearly is hearing words.
Right.
And then, you're like, whoop, title screen. Yep. The next thing we see, it's the same girl, except she is now clean. Her hair is straight and brushed. She doesn't have any old makeup on.
Yeah.
And she's sitting on a bed reading the Bible. This bed happens to be in a hospital room. And she looks up and sees Sam, the orderly, walk in.
Was asking her questions about what she did. And she's like, well, you saw it on the news. I stabbed a guy in the heart. Very matter-of-factly, very calmly, and I guess accepted of what she did. And he gets down to her level, like sits down, like puts away his chart, and turns into Sam. Like, she obviously doesn't know who Sam is, but he turns into Sam. And I was like, Sam missed his calling, I think. He should have been a nurse of some kind. He would have been an excellent nurse.
Yep, his bedside manner,
yes.
Sam's.
This is where he shines.
Yep.
And so she goes on to say, I saw an angel. God told me to do this through an angel. And I know that it was an angel because it filled me up with a feeling.
Yeah.
That it just kind of, I just knew that it was. And this angel told me this man was evil.
To wait for a sign and then do the thing that I've told you to do.
Yes. Smite an evil man for redemption. Is essentially what she said. And she is at peace with that decision.
Yep. I wrote down in big letters, at peace. And she does. She looks, her face is completely calm and serene. And she's happy to be locked up in a loony bin.
Yep.
It's kind of like she's redeemed, from her life of, I'm assuming, a lost woman who's.
Oh, yeah. Well, later they mentioned that she was a hooker. Over and over again, they mentioned she was a hooker.
Yeah. So I didn't assume that from.
I didn't either.
Yeah. So that's why I was like, oh, all right. So the next thing we see is Dean and Sam are at the motel.
Dean is at the motel.
Dean's at the motel. And this is by far the sleaziest motel they've found so far. Oh,
yeah. I think all I wrote was, oh my God, this motel room. And that's all I wrote about it.
The decor is different versions of the mud flap goddess.
Yes.
And those are the silver silhouettes of naked women that truck drivers have on their mud flaps. That's why they're called the mud flap goddess. Yeah. And there's the Afro mud flap goddess. Yeah. There's the, white girl with the long hair mud flap goddess. And over Dean's bed is this giant painting of a burlesque woman who, if she didn't have pasties and tassels on, she would have been naked.
Right. Yeah. And there's just you can see kind of, they're hard to tell throughout these next few scenes or whenever they're in this room, but they're just photos and paintings of naked women everywhere. There's one I think that's laying in a big bathtub, but it's an overhead shot, or maybe it's one of those crazy shaped beds that, but it's definitely, I could see a female figure posing very sexily on top of an organic type of shapen thing. But yeah.
I was like, wow. All right. And to top that off, Dean is laying on the bed. He's listening to his chocolate Verizon phone. His phone says Led Zeppelin.
Okay, yeah. His phone says Led Zeppelin. The subtitle said it was something else, like an AC/DC song maybe. And then this list that has the songs that are in the episode says Down on Love by Jamie Dunlap is what he's actually listening to.
Oh.
But you can hear music coming through his headphones, yeah. But there's 3 different
Oh, okay.
3 different songs going on that says that he's listening to.
Yeah, because the subtitles were actually wrong a number of times throughout. And yeah. And I get that because subtitles are sometimes pre-written from the text. Yeah. Other times it's an audio program that just listens and automatically types, which is why you get the weird words that sound like they said, but not what they actually said. So I'm not quite sure what happened here. But yeah, so Dean is not only in this mud flap goddess room, but he's laying on a bed that does the magic fingers. You put a quarter in the machine and your bed vibrates for you. And it literally says tingling, relaxation, and ease. Which makes it all the more funny that when Sam walks in and is like, Dean, Dean A has got his headphones in and B is getting a massage from
a bed.
When Dean finally does take his earphones out, he's like, you are enjoying this way too much. It's actually making me uncomfortable. So payback, I guess, for Dean walking in on Sam looking at porn.
Yes, but Dean doesn't seem to care. He's just like, yeah, I'm totally into this bed. I have to. I'm on lockdown. I'm going crazy.
Yeah, I can't leave the room because I'm wanted by the FBI. And later, Sam compares him to one of those rats who, will push the button to have their pleasure center of their brain stimulated as opposed to pushing the button for food.
Yeah, I think it's called the Skinner's box experiment.
Oh, gosh. Yeah, so the rats actually stimulate themselves to death.
Yes.
Rather than eat.
Yeah. So Sam, after having done research, finds out that the guy that Gloria killed, Gloria is the name of this woman, the guy she killed was named Carl, seemed pretty normal, worked at a library, a churchgoer, had plenty of friends. Dean is just like, well, she's not the first crazy person, to kill in the name of religion.
Right, exactly. Sam's a little, he registers that, but he doesn't say anything.
Yeah.
But doesn't Sam also say that there's 2 people who have committed murders now?
Yes, that she was the second in town to kill by the will of an angel.
Yeah, an angel told her to. And Dean's like, well, it's odd. It might even be supernatural, but he's like, I don't think it's angels.
Yeah, I wrote just like, here we go, the discussion of whether angels are real or not. Dean is firmly on the side of like, nope, they are not because I have not seen them. And Sam is like, there is more lore on angels anywhere, like everywhere in the world than anything else that we've ever fought before. What makes this so hard to believe, considering all the other things that we see?
All right.
And of course, Dean is like, because I've seen them.
Right. And, unicorns don't exist either, but there's plenty written about it.
Wait, unicorns aren't real?
Yeah, exactly. That's when Sam's like, all right, done with this conversation. Now, I had a question. Did you notice during the back, because there's we glossed over it, but there's a lot of back and forth between the brothers about angels existing or not existing. Yeah. The close-ups.
Yes, they did.
They were so close. I was like, did I zoom in?
That's what I thought.
I kept trying to back out.
I thought too. It's like, did I change my aspect ratio on my TV somehow? Very close.
Very close.
Not only here, but a few other times in this episode.
Right. But Sam says Gloria saw a sign, so let's go check that out.
At Carl's house.
That's how she knew to kill Carl.
Yes. Off they go, and Dean sees a large angel decoration kind of leaning up against his porch, and of course he's a smartass about it. Like, look.
Yeah, if you don't take down your Christmas decorations, you're going to get knifed by a hooker.
Right.
Something like that.
Sam, again, just dismissive, like, very funny. But then continues on his search. And then he approaches the backyard. And then he's like, she did say that the angel said Carl was evil to his deepest foundations. Mm-hmm. So maybe she meant literally,
Literally the basement?
Yeah, so they go into the cellar.
Yep. And Sam finds, they look around for a little bit, but Sam finds like scratch marks, like on the wall of the basement.
On the wall of the cellar, which also there's just jars of things, which I was like, why are there always jars of things? It's always jars of things in a basement.
Everybody loves to can. Everybody just loves to can their peaches and their peppers.
I mean, I guess to be fair, my grandma did also have a lot of jars of things in her basement, but I mean, she was also, 84.
That was definitely, you stored food. That's what you did.
Yes. The Great Depression era, you canned things, God damn it.
Yes, exactly. But
maybe I shouldn't say God damn it in this episode.
Sammy.
But yes, you're right. Sam finds claw marks and a fingernail.
Fingernail, like embedded in the wall. And they're just like, all right, you know what this means. So
it was just like no words spoken, just like a dejected sigh of like, okay, fine. Okay, I guess we have to dig.
Yep. And they dig up a body. Yeah. And I almost said, what are the chances of there being shovels? But the guy buried bodies in his basement, so of course there's shovels in his. So they dug up a skeleton. It wasn't, it had been down there for a while. So clearly Gloria did hear something right.
Yeah.
Something guided her to this guy's house because he wasn't just a librarian. He had a murdered body or a body in his basement, I should say.
Right. Quote unquote, whatever it was on the right track. Next scene, we see a grungy guy in his house, just surrounded by just kind of general trash, mostly
a lot of liquor bottles.
Yeah, empty beer, liquor bottles. Now, and then
was he just staring at the wall?
Yeah, I think he was, because he had a magazine or something on his chest, but he wasn't reading it. I think he was just kind of
it was like a graphic
in a state of depression, just staring at the wall or the ceiling. And then the exact same thing happens at his place.
Lights flicker.
Flickering lights, the earthquake,
massive earthquake hit this apart, like even bigger than hers.
Yeah. And then this bright angel light, which I was just calling throughout the rest of the episode.
Oh, that's actually pretty good. I thought this was a really cool shot too, because when the angel light comes up, it's this blinding light that at first he holds his hand up in front of his face, like to protect himself from this light.
Yeah.
And it throws this really great shadow across his face, but then he kind of peers through his fingers and slowly lowers his hand down and leans into the light.
Yeah.
He's now hearing the same thing Gloria was hearing, because it's that same harsh whispers. We still don't know what's being said.
Yeah. And then it cuts to him just walking down the street, and then all of a sudden the angel light appears in the front yard of this house.
Yeah. And he turns and he walks across the street directly to that house. Knocks on the door. A guy opens the door and, yes, can I help you? So Zach introduces himself and then brutally murders this man with a knife.
Yeah.
Stabs him in the heart. You know, we see the blood coming out of his mouth. The camera pulls back away from Zach and this man he's just murdered. And we see an angel statue on his front lawn. It was like a fountain or an angel statue on his front lawn. And I'm like, a sign. Yeah. So back at the motel,
Dean is again stuck in the sexy motel room, fiending for the magic fingers because he is out of quarters.
He is. But he's this time he's listening to the police scanner.
Yeah.
And this is where the subtitles were completely off from what the police scanner was saying. I was like, what?
Yeah.
What? It doesn't matter. What he ends up listening to is the police talking about the murder that just happened.
Right. And then Sam comes in. First thing Dean asks for is more quarters.
Quarters? Sam's like, I am not.
Gross. So Sam had found out that in the university library that Carl worked at, 3 students had gone missing that worked there.
So not just a librarian.
Nope.
Dean then tells Sam about what he heard on the police scanner about Zach stabbing that guy. And this is where they do a call out to Touched, one of the first.
Pop culture alert.
Yep. Dean says, yeah, Roma Downey made him do it. Now, I had to look this up.
I did too.
Who's Roma Downey? And she was on that TV show Touched by an Angel, which I never watched. And not only was she on Touched by an Angel, she wrote, produced, created other TV shows.
Very of faith.
Yes, about like the Bible and history.
Yes.
Off they go now, Sam and Dean, to the victim's house, to where Zach just murdered this man.
Yep.
Where we see our first fence hopping.
I know.
In a while.
Yeah.
Yay! Yay! I did a little clap. I was like, thank you, Sam and Dean jumped a fence.
Yes.
Yes, thank you for that. This brings us to one of my favorite outtakes ever.
Oh, great.
So Sam and Dean have jumped over this fence into this, I'd forget the man's name, but the man who was just murdered, Frank, into Frank's yard, and they're trying to get into the house, and they come across a side window. And Sam takes out his knife, and he's able to jimmy the lock, because it's one of those old, slide turn locks on the window. He's able to jimmy it open and then open the window and climb in. The outtake is Kim Manners is inside the house. Jared is on the outside, and he's holding his prop knife, and Kim is saying, action. And Jared says, I can't open the window. And he's like, just open the window. And this is through the glass. So you hear Kim fine, but Jared on the other side is, slightly muffled by the glass. And he's like, I can't. They closed the lock too tight. I cannot open it. And you hear Kim going, God damn it, open it. I'll just get your, and he's like, he's yelling at him to just do your blocking. Just open. And to the point where Jared's like slamming the window. It's like, I can't do it. So there's a cut, and it comes back, and you see that the lock mechanism has moved a little bit, like they've readjusted the lock, and you hear Kim say action, and Jared's like, I can't do it. So it's the amount of time it took them yelling back and forth is longer than the actual cut of Jared of Sam slipping his knife in, turning opening the window and climbing in. And it was just, it just cracked me up to hear Kim calling Jared all sorts of names.
Oh no.
To get him to do his staging. And just the yelling back. Anyway, it's one of my favorite outtakes.
Hilarious.
So needless to say, Sam and Dean get into the house.
They get into the house, yes. And they're searching around. They don't really find anything until Sam finds a locked folder on his computer. And this is where Sam turns into Master Hacker.
Right? I was like, when did Sam become a password hacker?
I know. I didn't know that law school made you, like...
I mean, you can be computer savvy, but it doesn't automatically make you, like, a super...
Right. Anyway, so he gets in somehow and opens up a bunch of emails to somebody named Jennifer, who turns out to be a 13-year-old girl.
Yeah, it's only pedophile emails.
Yes.
And even Dean is like, I don't want to I don't want to read these. I don't want to know this.
Yeah.
And I don't mean to say even Dean, but I mean, Dean in his horn dogness may have been like, well, no, but he didn't. He was like, no.
No, he's like, no, that's a line. Absolutely.
No.
Good.
This is wrong.
And one of the emails reveals that he had been planning to meet her that day.
So Sam is still thinking it's an angel.
Right. Dean is like, this is all weird because spirits are usually, they're vengeful, but not in a way like this.
But in this, Dean is able to find that this guy, Frank, and the first guy, Carl, went to the same church.
Yes, this was a total, because they keep getting into these arguments about, angels are real, no, they're not. And Sam is getting more visibly angry each time they have this discussion. Dean is admitting that it's weird, but he's still hesitant to call it an avenging angel rather than a spirit. And Sam is like the complete opposite,
Right. Each one is making Sam feel, yes, it is. It's an angel.
Yeah,
and each one is making
an avenging
angel. No, it's not an angel.
Yeah. So then in a quick change of subject, which happens a lot in this episode, just quick, okay, done. We're gonna, oh, look at this flyer I found of this church.
Right. It just happens to lead us in the right direction.
Yes. So then they go to the church.
See their second alias of the episode.
Yes.
Churchgoers.
Yes.
Which is not the first time they've disguised themselves as churchgoers.
No.
But I do think it's funny that they get totally caught in a lie again.
I know. A couple of times, 2 or 3 times. It's like, what are the odds that they pick this one town that this father knew the priest of?
Right. Yeah, exactly. But the other thing I liked about this particular priest, though, is that he's like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah, I think he was just so desperate for just more youth in the church. He was just like, I don't care. It's fine. Just please come to church. I liked this guy. I liked Father Reynolds a lot.
Yes.
I didn't look up the actor at all. I wish that I would have, but I was just so he makes a great priest. He's just so kind but firm. But anyway, in this discussion, they're talking about the neighborhood, how it's gone to seed, and Father Reynolds is like, yes, it's very disappointing. That's why I wish more people would come to church. These people that were murdered, I knew them. It's very sad. And they say it's an angel, which is even more sad to me. And this Dean is this is where he really kind of starts to step in it, where he's just like, so you don't really believe in this touched by an angel crap or whatever it is that he says. And Father Reynolds is like, well, no, I do, because, a job thing, gotta kind of.
Because I'm Catholic. Yeah.
Sam saves Dean a little bit. He's just like, oh, look at this. Oh, is that Michael, the archangel?
Is that a painting of Michael? Yeah. And the priest is like, takes the bait. He's like, well, yes.
Yeah.
Michael is the fighter of demons. They talked about his flaming sword, although in the picture he didn't have a flaming sword in the painting. He was in an avenging mode. He was standing over the body with somebody holding a spear, but it wasn't his flaming sword. Mm-hmm. But the priest explains that, for the faith and for him, angels aren't these cherubs with wings. They are more of God's warriors.
Yeah.
He says, but they're more loving than wrathful.
Yeah.
So not passive little things that come down and, Hallmark, as Sam called it, Hallmark images.
Yes. But not murderous stabs either.
Right.
And then he quotes a Bible verse, which leaves the boys with a blank look on their face, okay. Father's was like, that's from Luke 2:9. Like, right. Oh, right.
Oh, right. Mm-hmm. Yes. And as avid churchgoers, you might be familiar with this particular book.
Maybe look that up a little bit.
So outside the church, Dean notices outside on the steps of the church, there's like a candle memorial little, it's not a shrine, I guess it's a shrine set up.
Yeah, a little bit. It's similar to a shrine in which, if someone died in a car accident on the side of the road, you see like
the cross, the
shrine,
and the candles. Yeah. And Dean's like, what's this? And Father Reynolds says, oh, well, one of our priests, Father Gregory, was actually murdered on these steps here for his car keys. Yeah. And I'm really upset by this. Now, he says a couple of things here that I wrote down. Why would he divulge this information to Sam and Dean? And one of the things he says, he talks about Father Gregory being his friend, and, he was well liked in the community, but he's like, he was murdered on these steps here, but his body is interred here in the crypt, in the church's crypt. Why would he say that, for one thing? I know you needed it for the storyline, but I was like, oh,
there's clues abound in this little exposition that he gives, which were, that interred in the church crypt, that he didn't even give him the chance to the last rites.
Yep.
And the father has been praying for deliverance from violence. And maybe we do need a little divine intervention.
Right.
This was all just for exposition, and there's no good explanation, except for I could see why he would have talked about, like, I've been praying for deliverance from all this violence, considering one of his own was a victim of this violence.
Right. And a priest. Yeah. But that was just that one line about, and he's interred, it's like, hey, his body's over here.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, now we know. For the story to move forward, Valerie.
Yes.
That's why.
So after like this just outpouring of clues, Dean is very justified now. That's like, okay, this is absolutely a vengeful spirit.
Absolutely. Yeah,
this is more information that we've gotten in one go than we've had in season 1 and 2 combined.
Right. They have to work so much harder.
I know. It was just like handed it to them on a silver platter. Like,
this is it.
Here you go.
Not only is it a vengeful spirit, it's a vengeful spirit of this priest, because who else would know that these other men,
their secrets
because of confession.
Right.
And Dean's like, bada boom. Got it.
It's good. And Sam is still like, no, but Father started praying 2 months ago also for God's help. So it could still be angels. Like he's so stuck on angels. Yep. He's just like, he wants it to be angels.
Right. And Dean doesn't let it go this time. He's like, what words are coming out of your mouth? Pretty soon you're going to be one of those people who tells me they pray.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, Sam's like, I do pray every day.
Yeah.
And Dean had no idea.
Yeah.
Completely taken aback. And I will admit, I thoroughly insulted my sister-in-law last week.
Uh-huh.
I did not mean to. But we sat down to dinner, and the kids all, clasped hands, and one of the boys said grace.
Uh-huh.
And it was the most well-spoken, not, God bless this food, God bless this drink, let's all eat type of thing. It was a well-spoken, well-felt grace.
Uh-huh.
And when it was done, I was like, where did that come from? And my sister-in-law was like, excuse me?
Oh.
I was like, no, because we're not church going people.
Yeah.
I did not mean to insult her, but I absolutely 100% insulted her.
Aww.
And I was like, oh, I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
There's a time for flippancy, Valerie, and then there's not. And I just did not read the room and stepped full on in it, which is, I didn't know that about them. I didn't know that. I didn't know that about her. I didn't know that about how my brother's raising his family.
Uh-huh.
And that's kind of how Dean was just.
Right.
And it's not until Sam's like, actually, I am that person.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
And Dean did what I did, which was like, okay. I mean, I don't get it. Dean doesn't get it.
I feel like Dean was a little bit more judgy than that, which I think the people can be. Like religion is kind of like, especially praying, is it's like a touchy thing. And if you're not kind of out there with it, like very proud and living in their faith. And then there are some people who treat it more privately.
Yes, it's their own and they keep it that way.
And I think there's sometimes when people reveal that part of themselves that other people can be very judgy about it.
But yes, I mean, I think Dean does, but he doesn't fight Sam on it.
No, he doesn't. He doesn't. So and I think, and it's later he, I don't know, I guess opens up about it a little bit more. But I felt at this moment he was kind of like a little weirded out that he didn't know his brother as well as he thought he did, and he does this thing that Dean is not against, but like he would never do it. Dean himself would never do it because of all the reasons he's been saying throughout this episode.
Right. And their job.
Right.
The things they see, how can you believe in angels?
Right. To change the subject again, they say, okay, you know what, let's just go check out Father Gregory's grave and see what's happening. On the way there, because Dean goes a little bit ahead, Sam gets caught up in all of the angel signs. Like the earthquake within the crypt, there's a statue that's like shaking behind
hair blowing.
Yeah, beautiful lit window. And then he turns to the other side and sees the angel light. And, Sam is just like, like awash in feeling,
Yes. And then passes out.
Yeah, Dean finds him passed out and just in a daze, takes him into the church part. It's like, you saw it, didn't you? Like he immediately knew what happened. Tries to offer Sam a drink, for stability, which, Sam after having seen an angel is like, no, I don't want a drink.
I don't want a drink. And I wrote down, I said, I would.
Yeah.
I probably would have taken that
Absolutely.
class. But I just want to take a moment that Dean, his affection for his brother is always apparent, even when they're, even when they're angry or when they have their discourses, he still rushed to Sam's side, got down on the ground, lifted it up, and was like, Sam, are you okay?
Yeah.
And Sam's like, I feel at peace. It spoke to me.
Yeah.
Dean still doesn't buy it, even with everything that Sam is saying.
Yeah, he's kind of like, ugh. Yeah, a little bit rolling his eyes. Like he didn't roll his eyes, but you could feel it.
Yeah. And this is where we see the second round of extreme close-ups as Sam is now explaining everything that he just experienced. It's like that super big close-up. I was like, oh my gosh, super, super big. I thought it was interesting that as he's talking about what he saw, Dean's like, well, did you ask this question? Sam's like, yes, I did. So Sam's getting more clear answers than any of the other people who were approached by the angel, because Sam, and he asked questions as opposed to just blindly following.
Yeah.
But it's interesting that this time Sam's vision is driven by what he thinks is an angel, as opposed to his other visions, which are driven by the demon.
Oh.
So he's still having visions.
Yeah.
But this time, at least in his mind, he's more open to it because he thinks it's an angel.
Right.
And I just thought I was like, oh, poor Sam and his visions. I know. He's still having them, but
being pulled in all these different directions. This poor guy.
Yeah.
Dean is trying to like talk some sense into him. He's just like, said, we know that spirits can read minds sometimes. So that's how it knows who you are. Let me guess, it told you to smite someone who's about to do something evil. And then he kind of goes into I didn't know that you had this faith. Mom also had this faith. She always said that angels are watching over us.
Yep. That was the last thing she said to him.
Yes, because nothing was
murdered by the demon.
Yeah, because nothing was protecting us. There's evil every day. It's terrible. It's awful. But we see it.
Yep.
So how could there be somebody watching over us? It's that age-old argument of, if there is a God, why does such evil exist?
Why do bad things happen?
Yeah,
exactly.
Why do bad things happen?
And I hate to say it, but I think Dean has every reason to feel that because of the shit show that has been their life.
Right. And then Dean also mentions, I need proof before I can know that this is an angel, which I don't have, but I do have proof that this is a spirit. So then they go to Father Gregory's grave.
Yep. And they notice that it's like covered in like a vine. He calls it wormwood.
It's not wormwood.
Really. No, it's not. But for all intents and purposes, maybe in Canada they couldn't get any for this particular scene. But what is wormwood good for? It's for a soul not at rest.
Yeah, he said it's associated with death, especially spirits that are not at rest, which I did not find anything on that.
Oh, Lore-wise, you didn't?
No.
That's
It's
supernatural.
Totally a supernatural thing, which they're doing more and more. They're just kind of like throwing things in there and being like, oh, I guess it stands for this. But like I found one witchcraft Tumblr that said maybe it can raise spirits. Oh. But otherwise it's mostly associated with pain and misery because it has such a bitter taste. And also it's in absinthe. So.
Oh. Maybe not such a bad thing after all.
No.
So Dean's idea is, we'll settle this matter. Let's do a seance.
Hopefully Whoopi is available.
Referencing Ghost.
Yes.
I still think one of my favorite lines in that movie is when Whoopi is standing outside Patrick Swayze's window and yelling up at his window, and it's like, all right, if you don't come down here, I'm gonna walk away when I count to 3. 1, 2, 3, bye. But so the reason they want to do the seance is if the spirit would be summoned if it's a spirit, but if it's an angel, nothing will happen.
Right.
An angel isn't summoned in a seance.
And wouldn't it be good to just know for sure? Right.
And that's, of course, the conundrum, because faith is not needing to know for sure.
Yes.
That's what faith is.
Yes.
So I really feel for Sam in this moment, because as a hunter, yes, of course he wants to know.
Yeah.
But as Sam of faith and Sam looking for faith, looking for redemption, looking for God, he doesn't want to know, because that's a question that a person of faith doesn't have to ask.
Right.
So they go get seance supplies at this corner store, which, by the way, the KKK.
Yeah, I know.
I was like, what?
I don't think they thought that through.
Yeah. Kevin Kiefer's Corner Market or something, all spelled with K's. And I was like, all right, that was bad. And of course, they only got it because it's like this corner store. They didn't get proper seance supplies. They ended up getting like a SpongeBob placemat instead of an altar cloth. Which I love. The both of them just like, they're like, we'll just flip it over.
Yeah, it's fine.
It'll be fine. We'll make it work.
But as they're walking out of the store, Sam sees the sign.
The bright light.
Yes. Behind this other guy who had just come from the corner store.
And I thought it was just headlights. I was like, he's just seeing headlights of a car. This guy's like standing in front of a car. Oh, okay. That's what I thought. I was like, oh no, Sam's really reaching.
Yeah. But Dean doesn't see it.
Nope. And but Sam's like, this is the guy who's going to hurt somebody. We got to go get him.
Yeah.
And Dean's like, you can't just go kill this guy.
Yeah.
You can't just go get him.
Yeah.
And Sam's like, oh no, I'm not going to kill him.
Yeah, I'm just going to stop him. Sam is adamant. He's like, I have to go stop this guy. I have to, or he's going to do something bad. Dean says, all right, let's go. Gets in the car, but then tricks him and locks Sam out of the car.
Yeah. And Sam's like, unlock the door. Yeah, and Dean's like, no, I'm going to go get this guy. You go to the church and do the seance.
Yeah.
And drives off and doesn't give Sam any choice.
Yeah.
So Dean, once again, whether he didn't say I'm going to go kill this guy, but technically I think Dean is resigned that if he has to, he will kill this guy so that Sam doesn't.
Yeah. Yeah.
So Dean sets himself on the path as his brother's savior. Again.
Yeah, but I also think that he wanted Sam to go do the seance so Sam could be the one to see.
To see with his own eyes type of thing. Yeah.
Yes.
Dean, a lot smarter than I think anyone ever really gives him credit for in this show.
I think so too. Dean follows this guy who stops at a girl's house with flowers, picks her up, and then they go. And then Dean follows him for a while. There's a few scenes that just cut to him just in the car following him. Nothing happening there. But during that, Sam is at the church. He's at the grave. He's deep in the seance. He's spoken the Latin. There's all the candles. He throws something in the candle, which makes it go poof, poof. And then poor Sam, Father Reynolds walks in. What are you doing? And I loved this. Sam's like, wait, Father, I can explain.
No, I can't.
Well, actually, maybe I can't.
It's like, I actually can't. But while he's like, you know what, out. And he goes to lead Sam out of the church. This is a house of God.
Are you crazy?
Are you crazy?
Get out.
And Sam's kind of like, you know what, you're right. And he's like, he's kind of letting the father lead him out of the church.
Yeah.
Like, I don't belong here. I shouldn't be doing this. And just as they both are starting to leave, they both see the light.
Yes.
The blinding light comes up, and you see it on both Father Gregory's face and Father Reynolds' face and on Sam's face. And lo and behold, it is Father Gregory.
Yes.
Who's now standing before them. And he says, I've come in an answer to your prayer.
Yes. Because Father Reynolds is like, is this an angel? And Sam, totally dejected, is like,
it's like, no.
No, unfortunately, it's not. It's just Father Gregory.
The disappointment on his face before he even said it, you could already see it. And I was like, oh, Jared, nice.
Yeah.
You know, he read his entire collapse was just a small, flicker on his face.
Yeah.
And you just knew that he, his hope for it being an angel is gone.
Yeah. So Father Reynolds is oddly calm throughout this whole next exchange.
That's why I put big stars next to his name, because he could have turned into a caricature of what a priest is. And instead, when faced with the spirit of a dead person, let alone a dead priest and his friend, he is more concerned that his friend spirit is not at rest. And that this is what the problem is.
Right.
That the path that this man that his spirit should have taken hasn't been taken.
Right.
And so he's not afraid for himself or that there's a ghost in front of him. He's like, we need to fix this.
Yes. Because Father Gregory believes himself that he is an angel.
Right.
Like he is, well, Father Reynolds says it later, misguided.
Men cannot be angels.
Yeah, men cannot be angels, but Father Gregory thinks that he is. He totally believes that he's doing the right thing here as his spirit. Like, no, these people were evil, and the people he's sending out to do these deeds, they needed redemption.
But not like this.
Yeah, and both Sam and Father Reynolds are like, no. Yeah, they were headed like on they were maybe not perfect, but they were still innocent. And now they've committed murder. They're locked away.
They're locked away. And their souls are damned, too. I mean...
Right. Because thou shalt not kill, which is the word of God, according to Father Reynolds.
Yep. And he's so patient while he's explaining it. He's not angry.
No.
He's not spiteful. And how dare you do these things against God? He's like, you were misguided.
Yes.
And this is wrong.
Yes.
And we need to fix it. And
I did
big stars.
Again, like I said earlier, he's firm but kind. To the spirit. He's like, this I did not want. I did not want murder. I did not, eye for an eye. That's not really what I wanted. I just wanted peace. And you need to be at peace. You need to be at rest.
In the meantime, Dean, I don't know how this happened. He looked down for a second, looked up, and now the car that he's been following is gone.
Yeah, he was like on his tail.
Yeah, and then suddenly
they turn a corner, and it's like, oh, I guess he escaped me.
Yeah, I was like, oh man, Dean.
Yeah.
And so separately now we see that this guy has pulled off like behind a row of houses or something, and has stopped the car. And the girl's like, hey, we're gonna be late for the movie. We should get going.
Yeah.
And he leans over and kisses her forcefully, and she's like, oh, haha. No, really, we should get going.
Yeah.
And then he proceeds to pull out a box knife, and while apologizing, sorry, I've never done this before, brutally attacks her.
Yes.
Absolutely 100% full on attacks her.
Yeah. Like locks the door because she did try to get out at one point, hits her in the face.
Punches her in the face.
And he's like, oh, I'm sorry. And then pulls out his knife. It's like, oh my God. Like it was
a
brutal scene to watch.
Apologize to her while you try to rape her and kill her, basically.
I know.
I was so angry watching the scene. I wasn't scared.
Yeah.
I was angry because I just want to kill people when I see this.
You're right.
But thankfully,
yes,
Dean does find them.
Yes.
Smashes that guy's window, punches him out, smashes his face on his steering column, honks the horn while he does it, and is able to help the girl get out of the car and out of harm's way. But the guy, once the girl has been pulled out of the car, kind of comes to and he drives off.
Right.
So he escapes, leaving Dean with this poor girl. But Dean ends up making sure she's okay.
Tells her to call 911.
Call 911. And he jumps into the Impala and chases after this a-hole.
Mm-hmm.
So we go from that, cut back to the crypt where the Father Reynolds is now actually doing last rites.
Yes. He gave like one
Father
final
Gregory.
plea for like, please let me give you last rites.
Give you last rites.
And while Gregory kind of at first refuses, he's like, no. And he's like, no, you need to be at rest and at peace. Please let me do this.
This is what you need to be, not this other thing.
Yeah.
And I wanted to kind of shout out to Supernatural, because while Father Reynolds is
doing the last rites.
Yes, it's not the actual last rites.
Mm-hmm.
So it's the TV version of Last Rites. And I just wanted to say thank you for that, for saving last rites for actual last rites. It's kind of like, I'm always thankful that like trumpet players, usually play taps, for a memorial service or for a solemn occasion.
Yeah.
Anytime I hear a trumpet player just playing taps, because it's actually one of the easiest things to play on a trumpet, because you're not fingering the valves, it's all with your lips. And it's something to just kind of go up and down. But out of respect, you should not be playing taps unless you are playing for that occasion or like rehearsing for that occasion that you're playing for. And taps is a solemn thing to play. So I just wanted to say thank you to Supernatural for not actually reading out Catholic last rites as a TV I don't want to say gimmick, but as lines being spoken, because they are solemn, and they weren't actually giving last rites; they were acting. Anyway, it just struck me as a moment of they made a choice, and I
never had even thought about it that way, about that or taps or anything like that. I guess I don't have much of a thought for ceremony, but
well, I mean, if you're not a trumpet player, how would you know?
There was this one time, fucking Wichita.
You're really going to hell.
I am. So this was their ball. Like they had like their charity ball or something that I was supposed to do. Mm-hmm. They wanted a color guard there. That was already like part of the itinerary that they handed me was we hired a color guard, and this is when they're going on. So I put them on. Now, I have one uncle who's in the military, and I don't know him that well, or I don't know the military very well. Like, I'm not familiar with the rituals and all of that of the military. Very ignorant about it. So the color guard goes up onto the stage, and, Margaret's, like, talking, doing it, whatever it was that she was doing, and then, like, they come off, and in the room, they're like, they were very nice to me, but also like firm. We are only supposed to do the color guard or the flags when the national anthem is being sung, which did not happen. Like the national anthem didn't happen. And I was just like, I was so embarrassed. Because I was like, I had no idea. I had no idea. And like, even like when they had the color guard there, I was like, I'm not quite sure why they want the color guard here, but I don't know. Maybe it's a thing that they do every year.
Right. How would you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh.
I was very embarrassed. And then when I went to Margaret, like the next day, it was just like, so like the color guard, they were upset because the national anthem didn't play. She's like, well, yeah, of course. And I was like, are you kidding me? I mean, she did the Margaret thing, where she blamed me for her mistake.
Right.
But
it's so easy for her to do, though.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, that's what a terrible position to be put in.
I know.
I'm sorry.
Oh, it's okay. I learned after that.
So back to the car chase.
Yeah, sorry. No. Oh, yes. This nice, sexy car chase.
Yes, that we haven't seen in a long time.
I'm so happy that they have been using more of the car in this season. There wasn't a lot of cool car stuff in the first season. It was just he had a cool car. And that was about it, I don't, like was there a little bit of a chase scene in Route 666?
There was an amazing chase scene.
Oh yeah, there was.
That was well lit, well atmosphered, big, that was a sexy car chase
But
scene.
Here that we had like Croatoan, we have this one, I feel like there was like another little bit about the car, but yeah, they wanted to make this car chase way bigger and sexier, but it was so icy and dangerous that they couldn't. Yeah.
I actually made a note. I was like, it's the first one in a while. I was like, it wasn't as great as Route 666, but it was still pretty good.
They wanted it to be good, but Mother Nature had other ideas.
Well, considering that when they smashed the Impala with that semi truck,
right?
that was like one of the last major things they did, other than, I mean, as far as stunts go.
Yeah.
So it's kind of hard to top that. And then in this car chase, I mean, there was some, car spinning out and, stuff like that, near misses. I was like, that's hard to top, but I'm glad they did it. I was like, yay. So so Dean's chasing this car, the rapist in the car. He's on his tail for most of it. It's not Dean who ends up running this guy off the road. He ends up getting cut off by like a pickup truck that spins out.
Yeah, the creep like gets distracted for a moment because he's looking in his rearview mirror at Dean right behind him, or like coming up really close. Yeah. And then, something happens where he is almost about to hit the pickup truck, and then the pickup truck like does a brake, but then like spins around, and then like Final Destination happens.
That's what I literally wrote. I was like, right out of Final Destination. Right. This pickup truck loses part of its load, which happens to be pipes, like steel pipes. Mm-hmm. And this one steel pipe like bounces off the back of his truck and impales the bad guy's windshield and like harpoons him right through the windshield, through his chest, through the back of his seat. I mean, he's pinned and blood is pouring out of the pipe that has impaled this guy, and he is dead brutally. And Dean gets out of his car because he sees it happen. He's like, this didn't just happen, and he gets out and he very cautiously kind of walks up and he looks at this and he's completely in disbelief.
Yeah, he very appropriately is like, holy ...
Yeah. So he's shaken.
Yeah.
But I think for more than one reason, in which we find out,
in the next scene. Yeah.
Yeah. So Father Gregory has been put to rest. The third and final bad guy has been dispatched. And so Sam and Dean are back at the Mudflap Motel. Yeah.
Sam is like in total despair while he's packing up their things. Dean doesn't even make a scene, to be like, haha, I was right. Doesn't do that. Thank God.
Right.
Sam does say, like, you were right. It was just his spirit. We'll now take that drink.
Yes, exactly. Dean offers him the flask, and this time Sam drinks.
Yeah. And this was, like, such a heartbreaking and touching scene. Sam was just so desperate to believe anything against all of the evil in the world, all of the evil that they have to deal with alone. And, what he's been calling his destiny, all this new information that has just piled on top of him. He was just so desperate to have something else, something bigger on his side.
Yeah.
Because while he knows that Dean is watching out for him, he's still just one person. And he needed something else. He needed someone, a higher power, anything.
Yeah.
He needed God.
Cue the music, knocking on heaven's door.
Yeah.
Very subtle, though, not like, in your face, but it was just enough to hear it. Dean then takes that moment after Sam, finishes saying, I needed something to help me. Dean tells Sam what happened, what he saw, about the bad guy, and that he did almost do something terrible. And he says, if I hadn't seen it with my own eyes. And Sam says, what? And Dean admits, I think it was God's will.
Yeah.
And, end. That's the end. That's the end of the episode.
End of the episode.
The character reversal, the Dean going from, I need to see it to believe it, and Sam going from I want to believe to now I don't believe.
Yeah, because he even says like, I guess my judgment got clouded. You were right, Dean. We should just stick to what we can see.
Yep. I don't want to draw an X-Files comparison, but they are completely Mulder and Scully. Mulder is I want to believe, and Scully is the debunker. She's like, no, I got to see it. Show me the proof that it's the truth is out there. Show me the proof. And so, it was just so big that they flipped. That my heart broke for Sam, because to have your faith not only questioned, but then in your eyes broken.
Yeah.
And Dean, who sees that his brother actually may have been right, and he's been, kind of torturing his brother through this whole episode. He's like, oh my God, literally. Oh my God.
Yeah. Yeah, it was like he had a almost literal come to Jesus moment there.
Exactly. Exactly. But again, that's not how faith works.
Yep.
It's not about what you see with your eyes.
Yeah.
It's not about proof. But he was kind of given proof, that God exists. At least that's what he's taking it as.
Yeah.
So I really enjoyed this episode, but like I said, as soon as it ended and I closed my book, I was like, oh, it made me think. And I really liked how well they did this, because they didn't trample on anything and they didn't trumpet anything.
No.
The boys had their journeys. They each had their separate journeys.
Yeah.
And their takeaways are their own takeaways. And
yeah. I think anytime that they've touched on faith, which has been in the episode Faith, that Sarah also wrote, oddly enough. And the one with the preacher's daughter, Hookman.
Yes.
And maybe there was a couple other ones. But I felt like they've done a good job as far as just like, okay, it is what it is. Like, this person has faith, and I'm not really going to poke too much fun at it. Like, this one was maybe the exception, but it was mostly not at the faith itself, but at Sam just like diving straight into, yes, it's an angel and it's nothing else, kind of thing.
Right. I mean, and they could have beaten us over the head with the people who think that they are the chosen. Yeah. Because that's my always question is, who the hell do you think you are? What makes you think that you're chosen? What makes you think this is God's will? Right. Like, what? I mean, honestly, that's my big thing. It's like, who the hell do you think you are?
Right. But if it were something as obvious as that, like a big earthquake in your apartment and like a big shiny bright light
and a voice speaking your name,
I would, but I'd probably be like, okay.
But if it's telling you to kill somebody,
maybe not.
Like, this is your job, because like,
then I would have a whole slew of other questions. I'd be like,
right. Well, because that's Father Reynolds is thou shalt not kill, and God is the only judge. God is the only judge, executioner, thou shalt not kill, and judge not. Those are the two biggest, like me raising my hand going, wait a minute, I thought we're not supposed to do that. Nothing. I really liked this episode. I really did. Too. And I'm thankful for the outtakes from that episode. What is next, Sammy?
So next we have Born Under a Bad Sign. Which is odd that they chose this to be episode 14 and not episode 13.
Oh, I bet they're kicking themselves.
I know, like, man, we should have planned better.
That would have been just this is the introduction of, as it turns out, it is actually the introduction of angel lore. So angels will play a part in Supernatural.
Oh, yeah. You should say spoiler alert, which I maybe should have put in the beginning when I was talking about someone talking about foreshadowing. But
yeah, but I mean, we're not saying anything except.
And you know what? It's not going to show up again for a while.
Right. This was just the introduction of angels, and it makes sense
by accident. But by accident, meaning because it wasn't, as far as we know, and as far as I can tell from like that interview, no. It was not planned to be
a storyline
thing.
Yeah. A thing. Yeah. No. I just like that they. The monster of the week. I mean, they've now touched on, monsters that we consider monsters, but and then there's like the FBI guy who was the monster of the week. Yeah. And I mean,
they're covering kind of a spectrum,
right? So I just thought this is an introduction of another monster of the week, and this time it's angels, and so, in a sense, even though it wasn't an angel, it was a vengeful spirit.
Yeah,
he just didn't know he was a vengeful spirit.
Right.
Poor guy. Yeah, I just want to say, yeah, cool. I'm glad it's interesting to be back in season 2 and being like, aha, this is where we first learn about angels.
Yeah.
Even though we only learn about them through Father Reynolds' speech.
Yes.
Because there are no characters. There's no angel characters in this episode. So we just learn about.
There's not even there's that one. It's just that one bit about angel lore, honestly. It was just like the little speech that he did about Michael, and then Sam mentioning that it's everywhere. Oh yeah, Raphael and the little last rites thing they did.
Yeah, but I mean that's all. That's all. I was just, they've touched on a million things, and this is one of the things they touched on. But having seen 15 seasons of Supernatural, it's like, oh,
yeah. Again, that's why it like totally threw me back right when I first watched this, and Monkey being like, "Oh my god!"
And Monkey's like, "No,"
because he had, I think like season 6 or 7 was out up until that point. So,
okay,
yeah, but yeah, and I was just like, "What do you mean?" Because when you are, if you can think about the first time that you watch this. Like you said, it is just Monster of the Week, and then like it goes from what was it right before this? We just talked about. Oh yeah, shapeshifters, and then to angels, and then to like demons. It's just like angels are just kind of a bloop in a pool of different things. So.
Yep. Yes.
So yeah. All right. So next week. We are going to talk about Born Under a Bad Sign.
I immediately thought it was it just reminds me of the episode where everything goes wrong for Sam.
Oh.
Which I think is not this episode.
It's not at all. I mean, things do not go right, but it is not. It's not episode. It's not the I lost my shoe episode.
I lost my shoe. And then I thought of the episode where everything went wrong for Dean. Which I think is more of a
that's yellow fever.
Yes, exactly. So, all right, I can hear Julietta crying at me.
Okay,
because I locked her out of the room.
Okay, then let's finish this up.
Okay,
cool. So thank you everyone for tuning in to this week. Please be sure to follow us, subscribe to us, rate to us on anywhere that you can find podcasts. Also, please follow us and subscribe to us. Also, please follow us on all of our social media channels. We are at Salt and Burn This Pod on Twitter and at Salt and Burn This on Instagram and Facebook. And anything you want to add?
Nope. Just cool. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. And we will see you next week. Bye.
Bye.